Hey guys, Jexy here. Welcome back to another video. So in this video, I've done a lot of thinking, right? And the Rewired Soul put out a book called Cancelled, which I did read. And I have been going back and forth about whether it was worth doing a video on it or not. And, I don't like talking harsh about other people. So I was doing a lot of thinking while I was on vacation, and I thought perhaps the most appropriate way to deal with this book and discuss it is to take what this book said and what's been going on with the Rewired Soul and pull lessons from it. The Rewired Soul is all about pulling lessons from, other YouTubers' videos and other things and trying to find how we can take what we've learned from them and apply it to our everyday lives, right? So I thought it would be completely appropriate to do the same thing with his book. So that is what today's video is about. So it's important to know that the Rewired Soul, or Chris Boutte, does not watch videos that people make on him. I know for certain that he is not going to watch this video. Therefore, I just want to throw that out there so that you guys understand that this video is not me hoping to get through to the Rewired Soul. This video is for other people so that we can kind of come together and learn from this mess is the only way to describe it, right? So for those of you who didn't read his book, Cancelled, and I hesitate to call it a book, he did self-publish it, but it's real more in like a PDF type form. It's not in book format. It also wasn't edited, at least not well. I also want to throw out there that I did reach out to the Rewired Soul when he had posted a couple preview chapters. I noticed there was a lot of spelling and grammatical errors, and on top of the fact that I could tell by the overall tone of the book the outcome it was going to have with his audience. So I reached out to him on more than one occasion saying, one, I'm not sure that this book is going to have the desired outcome that you're looking for, and I was really trying to save him some heartache. Of course, for some reason, he thinks I'm a hater. He never's watched, for those of you who watch the videos I've done on him, you know that, like, I am not a hater. I literally have been trying to really just help. I want to help people, right? Like, people help me in my recovery, and so, like, that's what I want to do for others. And he's told me privately that he has not watched any of my videos, but because I've done videos on him, he assumes that I'm a hater, right? Instead of realizing, like, my criticisms have all been on the verge of in the area of trying to be helpful. He's blocked me on Twitter, which is fine. So it's just a shame because I really, really did my best to try and help him before this book was published, and he had shut me down. So I just want to throw that out there so you guys know that I'm not just like talking about somebody without, I even offered to edit his book for him for free because it was such a mess, and I was embarrassed for him knowing he was going to publish something and that was clearly just not edited, or if he paid somebody to edit it, then he deserves his money back. But either way, okay, so that's the stuff out of the way. The second disclaimer I want to make is please do not go and leave hate on his channel. For anybody in recovery, getting extensive amounts of hate is just not good. And if we're real in wanting to see people succeed in their recovery, and this channel is all about trying to help others, leaving this video and leaving hate on any of his stuff is counterproductive, right? So what I want to do, now that that's all out of the way, is I want to go through some of the stuff he talked about in his book, the overall tone of the book, and really pull away what we can learn about recovery. So the first thing is that the book as a whole was written as he said that it was written as a way to examine YouTube cancel culture, right? But in reality, that's not what this book is about. This book is about him trying to justify the mistakes that he's made in the past and put the blame onto other people so he didn't have to take accountability. People felt bad for him, hopefully increase his subscriber base and start making money again. Unfortunately, as those of you know, this book did not have the desired outcome that he was hoping for, which, as I said, I messaged him and told him it wouldn't. So the first big problem with the book is that it's all about what they call like the poor little old me syndrome. As addicts, we regularly feel that when something happens, it's happening to us, right? That how could this happen to me? Like it's raining and we say like, oh, of course my day's ruined because of this rain, right? Like we look at the rain as being like a personal attack against us, when really it's raining because that's what happens, right? So they call it like poor little old me when we look at any situation and we feel like a victim. And this book was very much like that. In recovery, that's very, very dangerous for us. When we look at ourselves as victims and we don't take any accountability for anything, how can we fix it? So one of the biggest criticisms that the Rewired Soul has gotten from both the drama community, recovery community, mental health community, is his lack of accountability. Well, why does that matter? We see people, skirt accountability all the time. Why does it matter in recovery? Well, I'll tell you. What we learn in recovery is that by taking personal accountability for our actions, we can learn to change them. We are told in recovery that any situation that happens, any fight that we get in, any disagreement, anything that we see as happening to us, we're supposed to take a step back and look at our part in the situation. Now, in the Rewired Soul's Canceled book, it's a rundown of all the things that other people have done. There's nothing in that book that is about personal responsibility, about Chris's part in the situation and the ways that he's working to make it better and fix his own mistakes, right? It is so easy, if I get in a disagreement with somebody, for me to put the whole blame on them. They did this to me. They hurt me, right? Not taking any accountability. Now, there are some instances where something may happen to us where we played no role. But I have to say in recovery, what I've learned is that for the most part, we play a role in everything. We are never completely blame-free. So by acknowledging our own role in a situation and what we did, we can work to change it. One of the sad things about the fact that the Rewired Soul doesn't watch any videos done on him is that had he watched some of the criticisms that people... Now look, don't get me wrong. If 100 videos were made about me and all the reasons on why people didn't like me, I'm not sure I could sit and watch them either. So I completely understand that. But I think if he had watched some of the videos done on him, he would have had a greater understanding of what the audience problems were, right? If we don't listen to what somebody else has to say to us, we can't fix it, right? Like I can't give you my point of view if I don't ever listen to yours. How am I supposed to know that you're upset about this thing if I'm here talking about this other thing? We're never going to come together. And in recovery, communication is a huge thing that we're taught, right? We're taught not just to clearly express how we're feeling, but also to listen to what somebody else has to say. And so a lot of the criticisms against the Rewired Soul, he's never addressed. And he's never addressed them because he's never listened to those criticisms. If somebody says something, he blocks them. And again, if I was a subject of that kind of negativity, I'm not sure how I would handle it. So I'm not blaming him for that because let's be real. Nobody wants to feel like the world is out to get him. But another problem with this book is he tries to compare his situation to other YouTubers, which as a whole may be a really good idea. The problem is without any insight, without any self-awareness, he's not able to see why the comparisons he makes aren't accurate. So he compares himself to, situations like the Slazo on Alex situation or Shane Dawson or Tati and James Charles, right? He talks about all these bigger YouTubers. The problem is, though, is that most of the time, and the reason he talks about YouTubers that are untouchable, right? YouTubers who have come through cancel culture and made it through to the other side. And I think what a lot of it comes down to, that he seems to completely ignore, is accountability. If I can recognize a mistake I've made and sincerely apologize for it and then take steps to do better, your audience is always going to be more forgiving. The people who follow our channels do so, not for the most part, not because they hate us, but because they want to support us. So if they see that, like, if you guys called me out on doing something wrong and I did everything I could to really show you that I was sorry and make the steps to change it, you guys are more likely to be forgiving to me, right? what happens is that he doesn't recognize that part in it. And so he looks at his audience as people who are out to get him. And that hurts people. If I turned into this camera and I said, you guys are completely responsible for the fact that my videos aren't getting watched enough, I don't know, I would assume you'd be insulted by that. Here you are supporting me in what I'm doing, you know, giving your heart and soul into leaving comments and liking my videos and sharing how you feel. And if I were to turn around and blame you for something I did, I don't think you'd stick around. At least I wouldn't. And that's a lot of what happens with the Rewired Soul, right? When he's comparing himself to other YouTubers and their, you know, situations, the part that he's missing is taking accountability, right? In recovery, we're taught that, like, again, we need to recognize our own role in situations. We need to, and then work to make them better, right? I can only fix something. I can only grow as a person if I'm recognizing what I did wrong in the first place. I can't grow from something if I don't recognize that I've done something wrong. And unfortunately, what happened months ago with the Rewired Soul drama was that he blamed his audience. And I was very concerned when I read one of his preview chapters because I noticed that he did that again in his book. He blamed his supporters for his mistakes. He blamed the people who care about him most for the fact that he's not at 100,000 subscribers again. To me, that's like the biggest mistake that you can make and a sign that he may be in real trouble. The people who love us the most, and you've heard me say this in other videos, but the people who love us the most show that they care by calling us out when we do something wrong, right? I listen to your comments. Sometimes people say, like, hey, I don't agree with this, or hey, I think you missed this topic, or I think you covered this wrong. I don't come at you. I listen and I take into account and I try to think, is that person right? And for the most part, they are. The people who are watching us, like, we have a hard time seeing ourselves, right? I know for me, like, there are times where, like, I can look at a situation one way, and then only by hearing somebody else's perspective do I see that my point of view is twisted. In recovery, we're taught that our way of thinking is usually pretty messed up. And we combat that by working a recovery program. Now, if you're not working a recovery program, we can lose sight of that. And so I think the reason I decided to do this video at all is because I think that the Rewired Soul's book is a perfect example of how relapse works long before we pick up a drug. Now, I'm not saying he's going to relapse. I'm not saying that he's using, okay? But using this as an example. Sometimes people say, well, how do you know, people seem like they're doing fine and then they relapse and then, you know, that's that. Usually they say relapse happens long before we ever pick up a drug. Well, what does that mean? Well, I think the Rewired Soul's example, the book, is a perfect example of that. When you start separating yourself from reality, right? When you blame everybody else is wrong. I'm the only one who sees the truth. Why can't people see the truth like I do? When we start looking at ourselves as being better than, knowing more than, and ignoring what anybody in our life says about us, we're on a path to relapse. And, like, I hate to be that harsh, right? But again, this isn't for him. He's not going to watch this video and I don't care. This is for you guys and for myself, right? We can often start showing signs that we're going to relapse long before we pick up the drug. And by having people in our lives that call us out, it keeps us on a recovery path. And what happens too is that if we're in a recovery program, we're surrounded by a lot of other recovering addicts who will call us out, who help us, right? What we're seeing with the Rewired Soul is when you start narrowing your program, when you stop going to meetings, you stop calling other addicts, you stop doing whatever it is that has kept you clean, and you isolate yourself. You start believing that nobody else understands you. Nobody else gets it. If I can only explain myself to other people, then they'll understand me. When we start getting into that place, we're in trouble. And I think it's a good lesson to see. I don't want to see him relapse. I don't want to see anybody relapse. And the only reason and this is why I thought long and hard about this video, because I don't want my words to cause somebody to make bad choices, right? The only reason I'm making this video is because I know he won't watch it. And so I feel like we can have a conversation about the mistakes that he's made and is continuing to make, and pick how we can learn from them the same way he does with other YouTubers, right? This is what he does. He watches other YouTubers make mistakes. He makes videos on them and says, this is how we learn, right? So I imagine that he would be absolutely cool with the idea that we're going to use his situation to learn from. It may not be in the way that he wants it, but in his eyes, that's the benefit of videos like this, right? It was very hard to read the book. I'm not going to lie. It was upsetting. It was upsetting to see somebody fall so far. You know, I watched his older videos when he was really recovery based, and he had so much experience to offer, so much support to give. We can also see the damage that can be caused when somebody who is in a place of, you know, having a little clean time, having some experience, when they take advantage of newcomers. He talks in his book about how he was taught you never punch down, right? You never bully people that are less than you. And then he proceeds to write an entire chapter of the book tearing apart people who are struggling with mental health and people who are in early recovery. I can't imagine being so low in my own recovery that I would think it was okay to bully people who are new in recovery. Now, we've seen him do it on other videos and stuff, but he named people in this book, people who don't have platforms, people who don't have YouTube channels. I think that we can all look at this as a danger sign. What we can learn from this is that when we don't work a recovery program, this is what it looks like to fall. And when you're in this place, the longer you stay in a place like this, the harder it is to pick yourself back up. You know, I've heard it said that our bottom's where we stop digging. We can hit bottoms in recovery, right? We can make bad mistakes. We can lose everything we have. And as you see, he talks about how he's in financial ruin. But he is blaming other people for that. And unfortunately, when you're blaming others for your own mistakes, you're digging your hole deeper. I just thought, look, I could go through this book chapter by chapter and really be critical. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to take this mess of a situation, because that's what it is. It's a mess. And I want to say, look, if anything, what good can come from this? What good can come? Well, I think that the lessons that we can learn by watching what not to do. It's easy to talk about what not to do, but sometimes it's hard to visualize what that looks like. Like, what does it look like when somebody's not humble? What does it look like when someone's not taking accountability, right? And I think, unfortunately, the Rewired Soul is a great example of what not to do in recovery. Nobody wants to be there. And I feel awful that he really views himself as like the whole world's out to get him. I hope that perhaps he'll start seeing himself, right? For me, recovery is about personal growth, about recognizing what I need to do each day to be better than the day before, taking personal accountability and working on correcting my own mistakes. That's what we can learn from this. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Do you think that we can learn from other people's mistakes, or do you think that we need to make those same mistakes ourselves to learn something? Let me know what you think in the comments. Is there something else that you think we can learn from this book? Let's take a mess of a situation and let's make it positive. What can we learn from this? How can we do better in our own recovery by seeing the mistakes of somebody else? And again, please, please, please do not go to his channel and leave hate. That is not what this is about. That is not what we do. I am really, really grateful to have an audience of people who are so loving and supportive. And I want to make sure that we carry that with us when we see other people's videos. Think about how it would feel for you if you read that comment. Are you being fair? Are you being critical? Or are you being hateful? Because I would say that there's no room for hate. And yeah, he may not listen to criticism. He may block you. He may whatever. But just be kind. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this. So I have a few more videos this week. And I look forward to seeing you guys Wednesday for trivia. That's tomorrow. I love trivia. You guys are fantastic. Again, if you want to support my channel, you can visit my Patreon. I'm uploading a whole bunch of past videos that I didn't get to post here on my Patreon because they're a little outdated. So, yeah, I hope you guys all have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.